Hackers continue to win the war on stealing data from people. Elon Musk's new AI image generator creates some head-scratching images, and self-driving cars are annoying residents in San Francisco because they keep honking at each other. We're going to talk about these stories and more on this week's Tech News Roundup episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. The guy behind the monitors is Chris. Hello, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well. And returning as guest co-host for the next few weeks is Brandon Maney. He is the Chief Technology Officer at Glasshouse and the owner of Mangrove Collective. Welcome back, Brandon. We're so excited to have you here.
Hi, Keith. Hi, Chris. Very happy to be back.
All right. So your first experience was not so bad that you were like, I'm never coming back.
I had so much fun. I couldn't wait to get back on the podcast.
So the big story this week, at least in the computer security space, was this news story about almost 2.7 billion records of personal information for people in the U.S. were leaked on a hacking forum exposing names, social security numbers, and all known physical addresses and possible aliases. The data allegedly comes from National Public Data, a company that collects and sells access to personal data for use in background checks to obtain criminal records and for private investigators. National Public Data is believed to have scraped this information from public sources to compile individual user profiles for people in the U.S. and other countries. In April, a threat actor known as US DoD claimed to be selling 2.9 billion records containing the personal data of people in the US, UK, and Canada, which was stolen from National Public Data. The story gets a little bit more bizarre, too, because there's some other articles out there that said that a lot of the data was already in databases that people knew about, especially the guy that writes that runs the site Have I Been Pwned? He says about 60 to 70% of that information was already in his database, and that the records it's not 2.7 billion people, it's 2.7 billion data records. So so they don't necessarily know how many exact people were hacked here. And I think the big thing was the social security numbers. Usually in a data breach, you don't see that. So it does seem to be raising at least some red flags for people. I know, Chris, you're a little freaked out about this, right?
Well, yeah. just a little.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it really does make you wonder, like, if this is the time to just get off the internet, just get off. No, really, I'm serious. These guys, they have 2 billion private personal records of that many people. I mean, come on, that's serious. That really is serious.
Brandon, you want to help him walk him off the ledge a little bit?
I almost think the exact opposite. Like, there has to come a point where we have to figure we're never going to be safe again, and all of this information, as much as we would not like, isn't, or it's going to be public and out there. So what can you do? Like, I feel like the Band-Aid's been ripped off. That it's not shocking anymore. This is huge numbers, but it's just another domino to fall.
I think this is going to help you walk you off the ledge so that you don't go living in a mountain shack somewhere in New Hampshire, Chris. So I've got two things. First of all, whenever there is a breach, you usually get free. If you're one of the records, you usually get information about. All right, we're going to give you free credit monitoring services for a year. You probably you might already signed up for one of those things that protects your credit report, at least, from getting hacked or from information identity theft for those. In fact, with the Ticketmaster one, which happened earlier this year, I got that thing and I signed up for it again. I get that free year of service. But I've already locked down all of my credit, requests so that I would know if someone's trying to steal my data that way, or at least try to get credit or, run up a bill off of my information. And I got to, okay. Then the second reason is that let's just say everybody in the US, they have information on, or everybody on the planet or whatever. That's actually a good thing for me, I think, because the hackers are going to go after the people with more money. Or they're going to
I don't think the data.
They're going to go after celebrities, they're going to go after famous people, a low-level podcast host, Keith Shaw, technology guy, is probably on the low end of the priority list for a lot of these hackers, versus if it was a specific targeted attack against me.
Well, so I think what's going to happen is I feel like a lot of companies and institutions they're always in prevention mode, right? Like trying to prevent their data or whatever collected data from being leaked or released, right, to a dubious actor, right?
Well,
but I think now,
in theory, the ones that are actually paying attention and securing their data,
right,
versus the ones that
they're not in the news.
The ones that leave a multi-factor authentication server, unprotected.
Right. Well, what I'm trying to say is, like, I think now it's like you're kind of transitioning from preventing your data from being leaked to now active security. You know what I mean? Like being proactive, like, right, like putting up your defenses, right? Because your information's out there. So it's like, what can you do now to make it 10 times harder?
Right.
20 times harder
right.
For them to do, illegal acts with your information, right? You know what I mean? So I think there's going to be that transition from preventing your data from being leaked,
right,
to now it's leaked. So what can we do now? It's out there. So what can we do? And that's how I see it now. After seeing this,
well, you know
what I mean?
Yeah, you're also seeing companies institute more multi-factor authentication. So it's not just a username and password anymore. Because again, maybe all these passwords have been there's always these passwords that get leaked, and you realize, oh well, so now instead of just logging into a system with an email address and username.
Password.
And a password. Yes, thank you. Now you're seeing, okay, well, you've now passed the first level. So now here's the phone, and we're going to send you a text message, and then you're going to have to then open that with your Apple ID with the face. So you're going to have to look at the phone, and then you're going to have to answer all those robot questions and how many stop signs are in this image and bikes and things like that. So it's going to be 7 levels before you can actually access. And to be honest, if it was my bank account, I might want those 3 or 4 different levels.
Do we think that there should be a upgrade or evolution in the SSN, right?
Well, see, yeah.
Do you think like there should be a next layer? So, okay, our social security number, right? That's how the government kind of sees you, right? You have a number.
Okay, yeah.
You're a number
Right.
in the system, right?
Right.
Okay, well, that's out there now. It's all out there. So maybe what's the next? It's kind of similar to what Massachusetts has done with the driver's license. You know how they had the, you have your regular driver's license, right?
Yep.
And then you have I forget what it's called, one ID or the special driver's license where it has a yellow real ID.
Real ID. That's a federal government thing.
Oh, it is. Okay. So sorry, it's not state, federal, right?
Okay.
And I believe they're doing that to, kind of prevent, fraudulent stuff with regular IDs, right? So this is kind of like a one-up, right? So you have your regular driver's license, and then you have this real ID. And I think it's just another...
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, but you're saying it's another way of identifying people. Right. Now, do you want to have your tinfoil hat on or just talk about it regularly?
Just talk about it regularly.
Okay. So, all right. Because we could go down that rabbit hole of
I'm just trying to think of like, what's the next thing they could do? Well, like, I'm even thinking like, heck, biometric chips.
Well,
seriously. No, like a chip embedded, so you were given a number at birth on this cardboard card. Now they, it's like Minority Report. They, you get this chip embedded in your, shoulder blade or something underneath the bone. And the only way for that to, number to be exposed is, well, someone's got to... Given
what's been going on with the political culture and the divided state of the country, do you think anybody in their right mind on either side of the aisle is going to go, U.S. government put a chip inside?
No, of course not.
Right. And we've already seen that there are some examples. There were some companies out there that were doing that with their employees, and some of them were, was it voluntary? It was either voluntary or maybe not voluntary. Mm-hmm. And people were, scanning I think it was in their wrists, and that's how you would get into the building instead of having a badge or a swipe or a card or something like that. There's just so much that's a horrible word, distrust and mistrust out there that I can't see them.
Oh yeah, sure.
I can't see the government trying to implement something like that. See, this is the government watching us. They turned off our lights.
I'm just adjusting your light. Hold on.
Everywhere in San Francisco, you get the story of the tech bro who has his Tesla chip put into his wrist so he can open his doors as he gets closer and closer without having to use a key or a fob.
Is that a real story or is that an urban legend or an urban myth?
It keeps popping up on SFist and other blogs and things around the city that's a real thing. I haven't seen it though.
Do you think that the government might institute something new? If they feel like the Social Security number is no longer secure, or do you just start seeing more and more levels of authentication? Brandon, I'm going to ask you that one.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't see. I mean, this is sort of the first time I've really thought about like a one-time passcode for your SSN that you would have to go back to the government to re-authenticate and get. I just think most of these leaks, most of the places where security breaches happen, it's with ancillary systems. It's not with somebody going on and leaking their password or using their account. Something gets put into a Zendesk through some or a Jira, some ticketing system in order to go and recreate it. And that's where your security breaks down with contractors or other people where the security isn't as tight. So to me, I agree with Chris that going to more proactive or taking your security seriously from a posture as an organization is important. But until you look at your whole security journey and where things can leak, that's not going to be where it's happening. Not somebody texting you those phones. It's a backdoor to reproduce a bug or to fix a customer problem that can be exploited through those means. Yeah,
Chris, talk about the thing you were telling me off the air where you had your bank called you, right? And you thought it was a legit phone call from your bank.
Well, basically what it is just social engineering, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They call you, they say you're so-and-so bank, we're letting you know there was a fraudulent charge on your account and we're never going to ask you for your personal data at all. But could you click on this link that we text you and can you input your information? And it's like, wait a minute. That's not a good idea.
Well,
they sent me a link.
You did click on it for a second, right? And
thank God for Google. They blocked the website. They blocked it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm like,
this
isn't right. This isn't right. Now, I will say this person sounded very educated. Sounded very, very, very well composed, very official, and so. You really do. I can't stress this enough. You really do have to be on your game. You really have to keep an eye out, be proactive. As soon as I got that phone call and I hung up, that scene in Jaws where the guy's sitting on the beach and it's the zoom in and dolly out. You get that kind of sinking feeling. It's like, oh my God, this actually just happened to me.
Yeah.
Someone tried to get access to my account. And it's like, you always say to yourself, oh, this is never going to happen to me.
Right.
It's never going to happen to me.
Right.
It almost did.
Yeah.
It almost did. And so.
Because didn't the guy try to, explain the urgency of the matter or he was trying to catch you off guard?
Yeah, trying to catch you off guard and all that. And it's just mind-blowing how well he was in his wording and what he was saying. He was, he very well-spoken English, very, 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 very well-spoken.
Right.
And then so what I did was I went back to my bank.
Mm-hmm.
The day, I think it was towards the end of the day, later in the afternoon.
Yep.
I went there and I went up to the bank teller. I'm like, is there a record of this charge being placed on my account? And was there a record of you guys blocking this charge? I'm like, nope. We have no record of this.
Yeah.
I'm like, son of a bitch. It was a real fraudulent act.
But at least, and you went the next step and then told the bank, like, hey, someone's imitating you or pretending to be, this bank, right?
Right. And then so what I did was the next day, because it was already late, the next day I went back and I spoke to the teller, an actual agent. How you go into the back office, right, and you can sit down with someone. Right. I told him about this. And because I'm aware of their security training, I watch their security training videos and stuff like that, and they'll tell you that there's been an increase in phishing scams. And they said that this mainly happened during the pandemic. Over the last couple of years, there's an influx of phishing scams, people calling the bank members trying to impersonate the bank. And they've become so good. I looked at my phone and I looked at the phone number because usually it would be a dubious number. No, the caller ID said the name of the bank.
Right.
And I'm like,
wow.
Oh my God.
So they were even spoofing
they're spoofing that. Not only that, they're spoofing the actual text message that they'll send you to click the link. The same exact format as a OTP, right? They'll send you an OTP for two-factor authentication. Same format, same everything.
Wow.
And so I went to that teller. Anyways, to wrap up the story, I went to that teller and I told him, like, look, these guys are getting good. These guys are getting really good. Just letting you know, I just want to let you guys know. I want you guys to tell your fraud department, look, to update your guys' video. And I told them, I work at a company that kind of, we cover stories like this and security. I'm like, hey, you got to let them know that they're no longer asking for an OTP. They want you to click on this link to enter this information. Because again, the bank, and I don't care what bank you're at, the bank is never going to ask you over the phone what your personal information is.
Right.
But it becomes more...
So they're trying this new avenue of trying to get you to click on the link.
Right. They're trying this new method. Be like, okay,
it's very trusting.
I'm not going to ask you for it, but can you enter it in this website from the link that I sent you? They're trying to build that trust. So keep an eye out.
Tell your friends, tell your family.
Be vigilant.
Yeah.
And just... Well, what's that saying we have in IT security? Zero trust or whatever.
Right, trust
zero
no
trust.
one.
Don't
zero
trust.
And
no.
no.
If you think something's off, go in person, talk to your actual bank, agent and whatnot, and go from there.
Yeah, like if Brandon calls me up and says, "Hey, I need some money for this appearance," I'm gonna
just $3,000.
Here you go. There's your money, Chris. I'm proud of you for actually paying attention during a lot of our episodes, because it feels like you've absorbed some of the information that we talk on this show, and then with other guests of the security stuff. So, good job on at least having those red flags appear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I don't sleep that much behind the wheel when I'm back here. I pay attention sometimes.
Just I want to move on to the next one. There was a TechCrunch story also this week. Basically, I think even before this, other news came out saying that this year we've already seen some of the biggest, most damaging data breaches in recent history. We've already surpassed at least 1 billion stolen records and rising. This was before this other news came out with the other potential 2.7 billion records. Again, a lot of these records may mix, so we don't know exactly how many records were breached. But if you think about just the first half of the year, we've seen these big breaches at AT&T. We saw the big Change Healthcare one, which disrupted the pharmaceutical distribution between doctors and pharmacies. There was a big one in the UK of this pathology lab that was preventing people in the National Health Service from getting care. The big one for me was Ticketmaster. I got informed on that one. Now, they also said Advanced Auto Parts, so I don't think I go there for my auto parts. I think I go to a different place for my auto parts, but it's possible that my information was in that one too. Again, just continue to stay vigilant on what's going on. But if you want a big roundup, that TechCrunch story is a really cool one. So
I think one interesting point that we haven't touched on just before we move on is in the information that was leaked in the 2.7 billion. One of the parts that's jumped out to me is the mismatching information. So there's a data validity question. And so, Chris is raising good points, but if your social security number somehow is associated with somebody else that gets leaked, I don't know. That's the biggest question mark to me. How could that play out? And
so what you're saying is like the information, has been misorganized or unorganized, right? It's all jumbled together. It's not like data A goes with data A. Data A is going to data C, right?
I believe that's how I was reading the accuracy or how those associations were being made and not verified. So that could be a big question mark about where those associations are. And if you do get alerts for things that don't look right or don't match on your information, that may be one of the saving graces of this kind of leak.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I think I read another article that said that end users should start challenging companies that are requesting a social security number. And to ask them, why do you really need this? Or do you, maybe get humans on the phone and going, look, I don't want to give you my social security number because I'm afraid that you might not be able to secure it as well as you think you can. And, maybe by challenging them that way, you won't have to input that as much as you do now. I think only the IRS right now is where I will give them a social security number. But also in hiring and things like that. So I think, the company here has
all the
it.
credit bureaus. All the credit bureaus.
It's been a while since I've applied for credit. Do they still, they do require it, right?
I just applied for a new credit card and yes, I had to use my
Or if you just need to be able to monitor your information online, you need it.
Yeah.
But
like, for example, like Amazon doesn't necessarily need it, right?
No.
Right.
No.
Unless One Medical, I don't know.
It's
medical,
true.
medical. I think
my medical information is all through this, like, MyChart application.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story about how much information.
A whole other story.
Can I go down a little rabbit hole really quickly, Chris? Is this okay?
Yeah, sure.
So for some reason, my doctors are giving me more and more information that I don't want or can never even interpret. So I had a procedure the other day and they emailed me the results, and used to be the doctor would just write up a note saying, hey, everything's okay. Or nothing, no problem, we'll see you at your physical or whatever. Or no problem, we'll see you in 4 years or 5 years for the next procedure. But now they're actually including the documents with the full report, images. I'm getting images, from whatever, like, I don't need this. I don't want this. I don't, but someone within this healthcare system has decided that, for whatever reasons, transparency or what, that they're going to give you so much information. I almost took the paragraph that the doctor said, copied it, and was going to paste it into ChatGPT and say, "Hey, can you do this? Explain this in English?" Because but I didn't, because I didn't want that data to be revealed.
I bet a lot of people do and don't think through and stop at that last second. That's where my head went. Like, just point ChatGPT at it.
Yeah, but then you're exposing your data out there, or at least,
exactly.
I mean, in theory. Anyway, all right. Speaking of AI and lots of craziness, we got to kind of comment on this. So, XAI, which is the Elon Musk X version of their artificial intelligence, they launched their image generator, the Grok chatbot image, now lets you create images. Now, this is for people that are on X and they're paying for the premium subscription. They are the only ones that have access to this. But this is the world's either best image generator or the absolute worst image generator, because what happened was that people have been posting everything from images of Barack Obama doing cocaine to Donald Trump with a pregnant woman who vaguely resembles Kamala Harris to Trump and Harris pointing guns. There are so many images, like, we're showing images on the screen of like Elon Musk at 9/11, Taylor Swift driving piloting a plane into the towers. Again, the absurdity of it to me is the story. There's a lot of pearl clutching going on in the media of like, how dare he use or how dare he allow people to do this? And there's all these big fears about whether this is going to actually be the whole deep fake. We're going to fool the electorate into thinking this way. I think we're way past that, and I think most people will understand that these are not real images. The more and more you see these image generators, you can tell almost immediately that these are generated images. That there's no way that something like this could happen. But I could be in the wrong here. Maybe I should be more pearl clutching than I feel to be. Brandon, like, what was your thought when you saw a lot of these images and saw the story that came out?
Yeah, I saw the images. I don't pay for
neither do I.
Twitter, so I haven't played with it. But what struck me is that, from DALL-E, like the last time that I was on this show, just a few months ago, we were talking about AI and all that it could do with teeth falling out and spaghetti fingers and all that.
Yeah.
It's moving so fast.
Yep.
And it's ridiculous and absurd as these images are. And I do agree, you can tell fairly easily if something is generated this way. However, man, is it going fast? And I don't know how much longer it's going to be where we can say that with confidence, because what used to take years or decades to evolve and grow, we're seeing it happen. It feels like in weeks, man. Like that is what doesn't have me like clutching my pearls, but whoa, it's interesting at the very least.
Yeah, I would be more concerned with images that's like, again, I'm never going to believe that there's an image of Trump and Kamala Harris shooting guns together. Right. I think that they're doing this to show how crazy and how much of a lack of guardrails there are. But for, what I would be more concerned about would be is, can I generate an image that might actually be able to fool someone? And I cover the space so much that my guardrails are up all the time with any images that happen in any news stories. The first thing I'm thinking of, okay, that was fake. I think, for example, and again, this is the only political thing I'm going to talk about in this part of the segment, is there was a little brouhaha about Kamala Harris at an airport. Did you see these images? And there were claims that the image that the campaign used was generated by AI. Because if you look at the photo, you're like, oh, that doesn't seem real. And then someone was like, well, look at the reflection from the plane, and there's nobody there. So then they started going back and forth. Was like, well, here are some other shots from that event, and yes, the crowd was big. It became more of an issue of, well, it wasn't AI, but it could have been photoshopped. So there's a difference between, creating a fake image
versus,
and, altering a photo via Photoshop, which has been around for, decades now, right?
Yes.
So that's why I didn't really want to talk. I didn't necessarily talk about it because it was too unclear. It's just one side said, "Oh no, this is real." The other side does, "No, this is fake." And I don't want to get into the whole fake versus real thing.
I mean, I wonder,
but that is something that could influence a voter. Like if you're a voter, and you're like, "Oh, this person's generating a huge crowd," or "This person's generating no crowd." It might alter your thinking about whether or not you want to vote for them. If you're one of those weird people that hasn't made up your mind yet.
At the end of the day, it comes down to fraud, right? Like at whatever scale, you're being fraudulent in a picture of an election, a crowd, you're being fraudulent in, the picture of you wearing a ring the last time you had it if you're trying to submit something to insurance. Like, yeah. I imagine that at the much smaller level, this is going to be effective for, the criminals or the ne'er-do-wells out there that are trying to drive that. It's a very powerful tool that I don't know we understand or see the ramifications of, especially at those lower levels. It's easier to spot at the bigger.
I think it's also interesting to notice that the image generators that are coming out are becoming more and more obvious to tell. You can tell that they're fake because they all have a certain style, unless it's just I'm not actually inputting a style for the prompt, and I think I need to do that more. Because otherwise it comes out with, you have to either tell it photorealistic or cartoon image or impressionist painting and really before you get a different image. If you just type in, dogs playing poker, you're going to get the same image, I think, all the time. And it's going to, and you're going to, and you're going to be able to tell like, oh yeah, it's the same. This is image generated, or AI generated. So, all right, we'll move on. I just don't want to deal with the whole Musk thing. There's a lot of other people that can comment on that. So there was another story this week about how people are actually using AI. This was in our sister publication, PC World. Artificial intelligence is increasingly being shoved into everything, but AI chatbots in particular have exploded in popularity lately. A new report by the Washington Post analyzed research data from nearly 200,000 English language conversations from the Wild Chat dataset, a database of over 1 million real-world user conversations with ChatGPT. Unsurprisingly, chatbots are mostly used to aid in creative writing and role-playing, with a 21% of all conversations falling into this category. So if you've ever used ChatGPT to help come up with or flesh out ideas, then you know what we're talking about here. Also unsurprising is the fact that younger users are embracing them to aid in schoolwork, with 18% of all conversations pursued for help on homework and projects. Some would say cheating, but I'm not going to go there. Third place were searches and queries similar to what you see on traditional search engines. So search is down there. People aren't searching it as, using it as much for search. And then only 15% of conversations relating to work and business, with only 7% using it for programming and coding and only 6% for image generation. So I'm surprised that the image generation is as low as it was. Also interesting that for business usage, which we've had so many shows talking about the benefits and the disruption that's going to happen, but we've also then noted that there were surveys of people that were A, felt that they weren't productive, and B, thought that these tools weren't very helpful. So I still think we're heading down that trough of disillusionment, and people are not convinced yet that it's going to be super helpful.
I think that where I see it professionally is in that search places. I talk with CEOs and other founders. They're using it to compare vendors. They're using it to come up to speed, to try and do quick research on a client that they're talking to. So it is in that search and giving them more context. So I'm surprised that that's as low, but maybe those overlap with business and search as how they're being categorized. But that was all that stood out to me. Chris,
anything surprising on that chart for you, or?
No, not really. I mean, to me, it makes sense. Creative writing, homework, search and other inquiries, work, business. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would add, let me see here. I mean, I would even add I don't know, just like spell check.
That's a good point.
Or like grammar check. I mean, that probably falls under like work, business.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's what I use it for.
Right. Again, if there's if there's a task or a process that you're struggling with, this can be a great way to see if they can help you with stuff. I haven't used it in a while, but I know that the early versions of ChatGPT, where I was trying to come up with some, funny names or cool names for one of my Dungeons and Dragons characters, or if you're just be like, hey, come up with some cool baby names, and it was really basic and bad at that point. So I'm wondering if that's improved, or at least tell me a story, or if again it's all fallen into the bland, tepid writing that you see sometimes with these, because again you're grabbing from a database and trying to come up with the best creativity. We're going to have some future shows where we're talking with some people about better creative uses of ChatGPT. So I'll leave it at that. However, there was another story this week that I wanted to bring up. This was from the Financial Times. About half of all job seekers are now using AI tools to apply for roles, inundating employers and recruiters with low-quality applications in an already squeezed labor market. Candidates are turning increasingly to generative AI, the type used in chatbot products such as ChatGPT and Gemini, to produce conversational passages of text to assist them in writing their CVs, which is England for resume, cover letters, and completing assessments. Estimates from employers and recruiters who spoke to the Financial Times, as well as multiple published surveys, have suggested that the figure is as high as 50% of applicants. And so, they're actually seeing higher volume and lower quality, which means it's harder to sift through applications. A candidate can basically copy and paste any application question into ChatGPT and then can copy and paste that back into the application form. So it feels like that this story was going, it's so much harder to try to find a real person because all of these people are inundating us with these fake questions and answers, or answers in resumes. But on the other hand, I feel like, well, good for them for doing this, because
I agree.
The companies themselves are using AI to filter through all of these applications. So why not allow an applicant to try to get through those?
Fight fire with fire.
And again, so I don't know. I'm going to borrow that whole pearl clutching thing. It's like, oh, woe is me. There's a problem. So many people are using ChatGPT. It's like, well, maybe don't ask dumb questions on your application. Or maybe actually have a human looking at these, applications instead of using AI to filter through this stuff. So, any thoughts on that, Brandon?
I just think there's a question there around, we see the jobs reports, we see the economy where it's at. There are more people that are looking for jobs, and it is an act of desperation that they're spreading these resumes and these applications out because they're trying to find their place in an evolving market where companies are contracting, especially in tech, and looking for those efficiencies. All those are coming together where you have fewer humans to look at these resumes. You have fewer humans who are writing the job descriptions because they're looking for those efficiencies. So this is a natural place that we're playing out. If there's a way or software or something that's going to fix it, I don't know. I'm sure that would be really valuable, but this is going to continue.
Even before ChatGPT and all of these tools came out, there were a lot of companies that were digitizing their job hiring process. We saw this where, all of your, again, the old days of, remember Monster.com? I don't even know if that's still around, but maybe they are. But,
Bob Milk, right? Yeah.
Indeed.com is another job site that I used to use. What's the other one? Job Recruiter? Chris, there's a ZipRecruiter.
ZipRecruiter.
Right.
ZipRecruiter was a big one.
Yeah. And all of those job sites would make it easier for a job seeker to go and find jobs and apply for them digitally. And so the increase in the number of ways that a job seeker can send out a resume, has multiplied by factors of 2 or 3 or 4, X. So it's no wonder that a company that posts a job, instead of getting 10 resumes, you're now getting 1,000. So of course it's harder to go through all of these. So that's why they then employed, well, now out of these 1,000 resumes, give me the 10 people that I can look for. I think we might need to go back to a manual process and say, as a company, you cannot apply digitally. You have to, print out a letter, print out a resume, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it. And maybe that process will then say, oh, I've got an actual human here who's applying for the job. Is that crazy?
No, not at all. I mean, that's what I'm saying about the internet. Like,
I think submit a video. I don't know if you have to mail a letter.
Like, it's going to be, people are going to be anti-internet.
No, Brandon, we got to go back. We got to go back to this mailing a letter. Oh, you want some sticker shock? You know how much a stamp costs now?
I don't. How much?
69 cents.
What?
Yeah. See?
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
No. And to be honest, it might even be higher. I mean,
those forever stamps, that's a deal.
Right. See, so this forever stamp thing is either, like, again, if I had the money, I would buy like 10,000 forever stamps. And then in 4 or 5 years,
sell them back.
You get your money back by, selling these off, or you make somewhat of a profit. And again, this is a geeky thing I did. I went, apparently the post office has a sheet of stamps for Dungeons and Dragons. And so, I went into my post office and tried to see if they had them. And of course, the postmaster was like, oh, no, she hasn't released it yet. So now I was like, I forgot. I was like, well, I don't care if I'm going to get these now anyway. It would have been cool if they had them. But then someone was like, yeah, the stamp is 69 cents now. I'm like,
that's astounding. Wow.
Right. The sticker shock that we'll get like during the holidays, because that's the only time we use mail is to send out Christmas cards and things like that. But so you don't think that we need to go back to mailing a resume?
I just don't see how that scales. There have to be other ways where, from the convenience of your own home, that you can still show interest in something.
Well, is there a better way to prove that you're a human when you're submitting the resume? I mean, I don't know.
I mean, these are humans, right? They're asking for jobs. I don't think anybody's like going and trying to set up an interview or a Calendly and there's nobody on the other end.
I don't know. I think that something needs to change, though. Something needs to get fixed so that companies can not have to receive 1,000 resumes because we've made the system so easy for getting a job or looking for a job, not getting the job. Getting the job is so hard.
Looking for a job, yeah.
But there has to be something between my old-fashioned Little House on the Prairie, send a telegram via Pony Express versus this whole digitization thing. There's something in the middle that needs to verify that your job applicant, has the right skill, has a resume that's good, worth talking about. Anyway. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. The last AI stuff. Google this week had a bunch of announcements. They announced the new Google Pixel phone and a whole bunch of other stuff. But the interesting part was, they've got this Gemini AI. During the launch on Tuesday, a product director named David Citron took to the stage to show off the mobile capabilities of the company's new AI assistant. Things got awkward right after the presenter told the audience, quote, "All the demos today are live, by the way," and in front of a big crowd of media and analysts at their Silicon Valley headquarters and about 100,000 viewers on YouTube. He took a photo of a concert poster and asked the assistant to check his calendar to see if he's free the night that pop star Sabrina Carpenter is playing in San Francisco. The demo failed, freezing up and displaying an error message. Citron tried again with the same result. After a quick verbal appeal to the demo gods and a phone swap, the third try did work. So now we've all been to demonstrations and demos that fail. Right over here is our demo. We have a demo program where we have companies come in and they do the demos. And it's a video series. There used to be an event called Demo where they would do it. And that's the whole term Demo Gods came from that. So that's not a big issue. And I think the article was like this actual demonstration of a live thing is going to put pressure on Apple, because when Apple announced its AI intelligence thing, they didn't do any of these things live. So, again, that's that red flag that goes up and says, okay, it's a nice little video that you've got here, but how many takes did you do before it worked? So there is something to be said about doing a live demo that shows, yes, this actually works and this is cool and this is how fast it is. So yeah.
I think what it shows to me, and it did actually work. Sure, things happen when you're on stage. We on this show, I know, and in like my own life, Gemini used to be a joke, and it's coming for us. It's rapidly improving, and
that's a surprise. That's a surprise.
I agree.
Yeah,
I'm totally surprised, but it's coming. It's maturing.
So did you watch any of the announcements? I'm an Apple guy. I'm gonna have to admit that I'm not a Google phone guy. Does any of the features that they showed get you excited about the idea of an AI phone? Because so far we've been not impressed with the AI phones or the AI PCs that have been marketed and pitched.
I noticed some of the things around the phone app and the conversations, how they're going to pull out spam. In a few releases ago, they released audio emojis. I don't know if that took and crossed over your inbox, where you can press a button and do hand clapping where it cheers when you're on a call. So they're doing some really fun things with AI on the conversational side. That's part of that's part of Gemini. But full disclosure, I did take and turn Gemini off of my text messages just this morning when I read the article of how to do it.
Some of the stuff that they come up with just seems so freaking goofy to me. And again, I don't know if have you been on a Zoom call with someone from a Mac and they've got the thumbs up, thumbs down,
or the idea that pops up?
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, just to talk about that. I used to have a phrase, and I tell this to my kids all the time. You can always tell that a trend is horrible, or a trend or a fad is done when the Today Show starts talking about it. So there was a clip that was making the rounds of Hoda and whoever's on that show anymore. We're FaceTiming with Kathy Lee Gifford, and she, had the FaceTime on her Zoom. She was calling in from somewhere else, and she did the whole thumbs up thing, and the thumbs up thing came, and they were all like, "Oh, that's the greatest thing ever!" Whoa! Yeah. And I'm like, "That's it. Trend is done."
Yep.
So that's the golden rule. If you're ever thinking of a fad, if the youngins, if the kids out there, the Gen Zers, if they start doing something and then the Today Show picks it up, it's time to move on. So
no longer cool.
If you ever see a clip of someone on the Today Show saying skibbity or talking about Riz, I'm warning the kids out there, move on, because you've got to pick a new one, because if the Today Show does it, it's over. Because again, the Today Show is marketing these things to the 65-year-olds that are out there.
I like the Keith Shaw rule. I'm on board.
We're definitely going to do, and this is going to go on my Instagram reel, because my kids hate it whenever I post something like that on Instagram. All right. So Chris, actually, I want to just use this to, we're talking about phones and mobile phones. You have a big announcement, don't you? Without revealing anything.
I don't know. I guess I'm getting a new phone.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So, Brandon, were you around when we had this discussion about how Chris keeps his phone for like 15 years before he gets a new model?
I think I heard that conversation. Yes. I don't know if I.
It's not. It's actually not 15. I think it was 5. Yes, so 5. And so this was one of our YouTube shorts that went really viral. Chris basically announcing why he's not in that 1 year cycle that another one of our editors here. He gets a new phone every year. Chris is the anti-Ken Mingus when it comes to how much he gets phones. So, but you now are upgrading your phone, and you discovered that you actually are getting a new phone. You're not just going from an upgrade to the next level. You're going to you're jumping a couple of models.
Yeah. No, it'll be nice. Living in 2024.
You right? Actually, yes. So what I want to, when you get that new phone, Chris, I want you to see it, tell me on a future episode how better the camera is.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think those are the big steps. Is usually you get a lot better images and videos when.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, it should be a lot better.
All right. So that was just a quick little announcement for those of us who.
But for the record, I think it's been 5 years. I think it's been I think that's the life cycle.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be the real life cycle of all phones. It should be 4 to 5 years until you upgrade.
Yeah.
In terms of how long batteries, lithium batteries and processors last, before they start degrading. And
you could go down that rabbit hole of the planned obsolescence of these companies that legitimately or intentionally drive down the battery life so that you feel like you have to upgrade because all of a sudden your phone gets slow.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of lawsuits around that too.
But 5 years ago, are you still on 4G? Like, can you even connect?
That's a good question. Yeah. What's your network?
Yeah, no, I think it's 4G. 4G
LTE.
Yeah,
you're getting a whole nother G.
Yeah, no, it's I'm living in the present now.
Oh man,
2024, right?
Do you need an update on the lingo that people are using? Do I need to tell you what Riz and Skibbity and all that other stuff means?
No, come on.
Okay.
No.
Yes, please.
You don't want to know. No, it's the thing you do not want to know. All right, so I want to get back to Google for a second. In a couple of weeks ago, Brandon, there was the whole Google decision. And so There is a quick update. There was a story this week on Bloomberg News that said that the U.S. Department of Justice is now considering options that include breaking up Google a week after a judge ruled that the tech giant illegally monopolized the online search market. A Justice Department spokesperson said it is evaluating the court's decision and will assess the appropriate next steps consistent with the court's direction and the applicable legal framework from antitrust remedies. Now, we also know that Google is likely to appeal. This is going to be dragged out in the courts for a long time, but I think this is the first indication that wow, there's a lot of different options here. I think when we were talking about it last week, there was a feeling that nobody was really paying attention to this, and people were not surprised that the ruling went this way. But then they were also thinking about, well, you don't want to break up Google. Like I think that they should just take YouTube and tell them to divest YouTube, but that's probably not going to happen because. It's all around search and advertising, and that's where the monopoly is at least where they lost on this monopoly. There's another lawsuit coming, another trial that's coming. Most people are saying that Google is likely to lose that one as well, based on some of the evidence and all of their analysis. But when we look back, and again, Brandon, I know you're younger than me. Were you around for the Microsoft trial in the late 90s, or were you in like high school?
I was in high school, but I was around for it. And I remember how long it took to drug out.
Yeah, you're a tech guy. So Microsoft initially, I think they lost the case, but then they won it on appeal and then just decided to settle. So everyone thinks that Microsoft lost that case with the browser, but they didn't, because the ruling was thrown out, and then they came up with a settlement. So maybe this is the same direction that happens with Google, where they lose, maybe they win on an appeal, and then they're like, okay, well, let's just settle this thing so that you're stopped being a monopoly. But then also with Microsoft, this was between Netscape and Internet Explorer, and then Google came along and said, hey, we've got Chrome and it's so much better. And now look at the market share that they have. So do you have any thoughts? Since you're back for this week, and I haven't really heard what your thoughts on this Google lawsuit was, or the ruling.
I just think it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's not occupying a whole lot of my attention span. Like you said, this ruling, or the fact that the Department of Justice is looking into it more, did say like, oh, I guess they're paying attention. But to your point, I think it's going to be 10 years. I don't feel like Google's even really worried about it at this point. Sure, they're taking it seriously, but
yeah.
I don't know.
I think from our perspective, from a publication media standpoint, I think I'm more interested in this next trial, which is specifically around, the digital marketplace and the advertising and, trying to open that market up so that you don't have to funnel everybody through Google for a lot of these different things. But, I've read some articles that are saying like even that technology is 5 or 6 years old, where they're doing different things rather than just Google ads, which is, I think what the lawsuit was based on. So should be interesting. All right. Final story. And this is honor of you, Brandon, because you live in San Francisco. I hope I didn't reveal too much of your personal information that says that you, if I do, I apologize. So San Francisco neighbors are saying that repeated Waymo honking is keeping them up at night. This was a report from a TV news station in San Francisco. In the South of Market neighborhood, neighbors say repeated honking from Waymo driverless cars is disturbing their sleep. Multiple residents in high-rise buildings off of 2nd Street near Harrison Street told this TV station that they've been hearing Waymo vehicles honking in a nearby parking lot for the past several weeks. They said that the lot began to be occupied by Waymo vehicles just a few weeks ago, and they appear to go to the lot to rest in between rides. And so apparently that this, the honking happens daily at different levels, but the most intense honking happens at 4 a.m. and at evening rush hour times. So they, Waymo did contact the TV station and said the honking is happening because of software that is meant to prevent slow-moving crashes. For example, if someone is slowly backing out of a parking spot and doesn't see you, you'd honk if they got too close. But, when you put a handful of Waymos in a parking lot, that's what you're getting. So I don't know if you see the video. Like this went viral on TikTok. And basically all of these cars are trying to find a parking spot.
They're all beeping.
And they're all beeping at each other. So it's amusing. Not amusing if you live near this. So Brandon, you living in San Francisco, A, are you hearing these honkings? Or B, is this a bigger deal? Is this a big deal in your news sphere?
I think it's hilarious. And yes, it has been on all of my feeds. It's so funny. I do not take and live in the South Market area, but everybody in San Francisco is talking about this. The poor software engineer who built this, thinking it's a great idea to honk if something's coming slowly at you, and how they're going to fix it and push it out is like the conversation. I was talking to some buddies about it last night. Yeah. I just can picture when I look at that parking lot, like the DVD sort of bouncing around on my screen of all of these Waymos trying to honk. It's hilarious.
It looks like, so have you seen those little mobile apps where it's a game called Parking Lot? And you have to like, you move your finger and one car goes out and then you have to solve the puzzle by getting every car out of the parking lot. That's what that reminded me of just watching a real life version of that. And again, because these are all driverless cars, it's just this constant loop of oh, I can't come in. Wait, no, can't park yet. Oh, well, and going back and forth. From a technology standpoint, this is one of those unintended consequences of this driverless vehicles. I'm sure that at some point, the human programming this was like, yeah, this completely makes sense. If you're backing up in the car sees someone backing up, give them a little honk, not realizing that if you have 50 cars all doing this at the same time, you're going to create this noise pollution. So, could they have discovered this ahead of this incident? Probably not. And so now they have to think of, well, now how do I get out of this? Maybe move all the cars to a different location and so that they don't have to trigger this sensor or change the sensor readings.
This is like the first real, at least in my mind, like 2024 standalone problem. Like this has never existed before.
I love that there's there's value in a TV news station bringing this, issue.
Shout out to ABC7.
Yeah, and obviously it started with TikTok. I think this was a TikTok video that someone, was complaining about, and then the TV station probably saw that and was like, "Oh, hey, this is a cool story," because it's so visual. And when you watch the video, it's just like, yeah, that would annoy me too at 4 a.m. if I was living right near there. So I think they'll solve this problem, but I think the bigger issue is that sometimes when you use technology, you don't know problems you're going to have until you're out in the wild. Like I'm sure that they don't have any examples of this when they were testing this.
One of my favorite sayings in software development and technology is you learn something every time you go to production. They just learned something in production that nobody had ever anticipated.
And what's funny is that this had nothing to do with humans. Again, they've deployed this, and sometimes you'll see the humans do dumb things, like they'll just stand in the middle of an intersection to see what happens. So we've seen all of these things. We've seen, cases where some of these cars are driving through cones when they're not supposed to drive through cones. This is the first time where, a bunch of autonomous cars are causing a problem because of something that was trying to prevent an accident, but now you've got this Tetris type thing.
Yep.
So, all right. You let us know, Brandon, if this problem gets fixed, okay?
I will.
All right. Again, thanks again for joining us on the show, and we appreciate you being here.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
All right. That's all the time we have for today's episode. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any thoughts that you have below. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.